Okay.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Brad Dabbs. I'm here to give you a speech for my speech class today, talking about breakfast and why it's important for you. So what if I told you that you could lose weight, increase your mental focus, supercharge your immune system, and have more energy all at the low cost of 15 minutes out of each morning? Sounds too good to be true, but I'm here to tell you it's possible. So the agenda that we're going to cover today is we're going to look at why you should eat breakfast, what to eat for breakfast, and then we're going to look at how much of that to eat for breakfast. So first of all, why should you eat breakfast? I'm going to read you a couple of quotes here. First one's from the University of Bristol. They conducted a study of a group of adult males researching how well they perform specific tasks with and without breakfast. And they concluded that, quote, the results showed that those who consumed breakfast cereal had a more positive mood at the start of the test sessions, performed better on a spatial memory task, and felt calmer at the end of the test session than those in the no breakfast condition. Another study conducted by Menzies Research Institute in Tasmania was a survey of a group of children as well as a group of adults to see how they performed and more specifically how their body mass was affected with and without breakfast through their childhood years. And they said, quote, after adjustment for age, sex, and socio-demographic and lifestyle factors, participants who skipped breakfast in both childhood and adulthood had a larger waist circumference than did those who ate breakfast at both time points. And really what that ties into is the increased metabolism that you get when you do eat breakfast. So if you think about it, if the last meal that you eat each day is 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and you skip breakfast the next morning, and you don't eat lunch till noon, you're looking at 15, 16 hours of fasting. So what happens when you fast is your body starts to think that you are fasting because you are, and it'll slow down your metabolism to conserve the food that you have because it doesn't know when your next meal is going to be. So when your body starts slowing down, you start getting fatigued because it's not burning off as much of that energy, it's wanting to store it. You start getting cravings because your body's wanting to replace that, and you lose energy because your body's wanting to conserve all that energy because it doesn't know when your next meal is going to be. So now that you know why you should eat breakfast, let's look at what to eat for breakfast. Breakfast should contain all or most of the food groups each day. What I have here is the replacement for the food pyramid. This is what the USDA is now calling the food plate. It replaces what was published in the early 90s as a food pyramid, where it was really off balance, where you had a large group of grains at the very bottom and it tapered up. And they've kind of rebalanced everything into this new food plate. But it's a really good guide, especially for what you should be eating for breakfast, because breakfast is really what's going to charge your body for the larger portion of the day. It's what your body's really going to thrive on. So it's really important to not just be eating Pop-Tarts and high-sugar cereals. You want to get your fruits and vegetables in there, as well as a little bit of dairy. And this is also if you're wanting to get some fatty foods into your diet, like bacon or meats or anything. It's good to include it in breakfast because your body's going to have the opportunity to burn that off throughout the day. If you're eating that kind of stuff at dinner and you're not very active after dinner and you go right to bed, then your body's just going to store that as fat overnight, and you're going to end up getting larger. So now we know what to eat for breakfast. Let's take a look at how much you should eat for breakfast. The old saying really is true that breakfast should be your biggest meal of the day, and the rest of the meals should taper off after that. Lunch should be smaller, and dinner should really be a really small meal because your body, if it doesn't use what you eat for dinner, it's just going to store it as fat overnight. And it is okay to go big, but like I said, go healthy. Make sure you're not just eating Pop-Tarts and high-sugar cereals. You want to get that nutrition in there because that's what your body is going to be thriving on. If you just eat a bunch of sugar for breakfast, you might feel filled up when you leave the house, but an hour or two later you're going to feel yourself crashing because your body's burnt through that sugar. And basically, eating from all the main food groups is a really good guide for how much you should eat, because if you get something out of each of the food groups, you're going to have a pretty good plate there. That's a pretty good guide for what you should be eating. So in conclusion, we've learned that you can lose weight, increase your mental focus, supercharge your immune system, and have more energy, all at the low cost of 15 minutes out of your morning. So another statistic I want to point out is how many Americans don't eat breakfast every day. According to a survey conducted by NPD Group, and this was an online survey just asking people, do you eat breakfast routinely or do you not eat breakfast? Out of that survey, they concluded that 1 in 10 Americans skip breakfast. If you think about that, that's 31 million Americans that aren't eating breakfast every day, and they're not getting all these great benefits that we've looked at for their breakfast. Another survey conducted by, that was published to the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, was a survey of 29,000 male participants. And at the beginning of the survey, they are free of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. And the survey was conducted over a period of 16 years. At the end of that 16-year period, they concluded that adult males who don't eat breakfast routinely have a 21% higher risk of having type 2 diabetes. That's something important to think about. It's 15 minutes out of your day, and you can reduce that risk by 21%. So that concludes my speech. These are my references. Thank you. Now I have to give everybody again.
Huh?
I have to show them at the beginning and the end.
I feel like breakfast.